Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
Hey guys, what's up? Amir Ryder here with the Transform Sales Podcast. I got Nate Morris, founder of Apex Conversions, and we are on the Sales Agency Spotlight Series. Nate, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How's it going? Excited to be here on a Saturday.
Yeah, you got me on a Saturday.
Whenever they're watching it.
I know what I did. I know I was like, I'm gonna get these done on a Saturday, and I put the opening of my link, and then the hustlers, the guys who love their jobs, book me on Saturday. So definitely, you can definitely see who books you on a Saturday are people that love what they do. So thank you for booking me on a Saturday. But it's also awesome how we met. For those listening, Nate I follow Nate on, we're connected on Facebook. I think Nate commented something about regarding the service, how he helps people LinkedIn, and I kind of pushed back on the offer. I was like, let's talk about the offer. And then Nate messaged me, started talking about the offer. And then we
had like a mini argument. We had like a mini, we had like a mini debate. A mini debate. What other people would perceive as an argument, but is just a normal conversation to us. And then
if I push on you, I like you. It means that I appreciate what you're doing. And
we're gonna have like a real conversation. Like it's gonna be it's gonna be good.
I expect that from you too. And look, guys, no one canceled each other. We didn't agree on something, and then we realized that we were both aligned. Nate is just passionate about running an awesome agency and helping people. I'm passionate about helping people find awesome agencies. So we ended up becoming friends, and now we're on this podcast. For those listening, and Nate, for yourself too, on this podcast, we love people. We really want to spotlight your agency and kind of get you to talk about that 80-20 rule, right? I think that there's a commonality where agencies, or it's hard for an agency to be like, no, we don't help you, but we help you, right? And we are going to kind of drill into almost like a case study and who you help to kind of get you to focus on that 80-20 without actually saying that you can't help other people. And then talk about maybe some mistakes that buyers make during the selection process with ideas that if they can just hear this kind of stuff and hear a little bit more transparency in the back end, they can buy sales services better. And by better, I mean, get the outcomes they expect and are happier, right? Like that's what better means in this frame. But maybe you can start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you became the founder of Apex Conversion, and ultimately what you guys specialize in.
Sure. So I have a long history of sales jobs, as well as marketing is like a passion that kind of ran parallel into each other. And then when the pandemic hit in 2020, I had to go do something new. And LinkedIn was the platform that I had the most like luck on, because I really liked cold calling and prospecting, which is like a widely unliked thing. But I like to just jump in the right conversation. If I have the right people to talk to and I know what to say and I believe in my product, like I can just get in the conversation, right? And so I like to just get right there. And so LinkedIn allowed us to do that. And that's how I was getting clients in the past. So we used it to help other people do it. And so since the pandemic up until maybe like a couple months ago, we were doing it just as a done for you service. So we would do everything of finding the right people, messaging them for you, getting them to the point where they're interested, and you just have to hop in at that point, which is the ideal point, because that's like, in my opinion, where most of the work is in terms of like getting them into like the sales process.
Yep.
Yeah. And so
it does your agency focuses on LinkedIn, correct?
Yeah. Mostly we have the most luck with LinkedIn. What we do works on other platforms, but on LinkedIn, you have,
let's stay on
people
LinkedIn
right there. Yeah. What's up? Yeah.
So for everybody listening, one of the common things that I hear from agency owners is that they got really good at the thing that they now offer, right? Which is it's kind of interesting, because if you hear a lot of people that are always like, hey, I want to hire internally, they're almost looking for people that they think could be good at the thing that they want to hire them for, right? And then they have to hire them, train them, support them, knowing that they can leave at any moment, right? And they ignore the fact that if they reach out to an agency owner, you're probably actually getting somebody who's extremely passionate about it, loves what they're doing, and is really good at it, right? And then it's like strange, because instead of accessing that talent through an agency, they feel like they need to hire it internally as W-2, and it doesn't really work out that well, because really good talent actually turns out to become sales agency owners, right? Or they leave to big companies. So it's funny listening that commonality, because I feel like a lot of times buyers, if they really listen to the owners, the founders, the owners, they can start to grasp the concept that you're actually hiring top talent, just not under W-2, just under a vendor contract, which kind of is the same thing.
You're getting economy of scale, really.
Yeah. but it's like a mental thing where they don't feel like they're getting that, right? And that's kind of also why we do these shows too, so they can hear and actually, because like they'll hire someone wishing that that person will then crack some code and make them revenue when you've already cracked the code and productized it, right? And you're like, this is what we do. We did really well, and you can get into it with economies of scale. What you're saying. Where's the agency based, by the way? Are you guys in US? You're stateside?
US, yeah.
You're stateside. Do you guys have like any kind of specific company that you help? Like when you look for your like ideal client, is it and it doesn't have to be either or, but is it like a software company, a service company, Series A, Series B? Does it have more to do with the person's mentality of who's hiring you, right? Like it could be a combination. What does that look like for you? What's that like? You get this person and you're like, man, if I get this kind of company, this kind of mentality, it's a home run.
Yeah. So we're definitely a like the culture of we're gonna tell you what's up. So that's something that we're pretty big on because we've seen that clients like have to get results to see that. So personality wise, they definitely need to be playing more of like the infinite game versus I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs right now that are like dating entrepreneurship. And so they're looking at things as like this binary, am I going to hit this thing? And if I don't, then like I failed, but it's actually more about like forward progression. And so if they already have that under wraps, then that's good. Ideally, we're data focused. And so pretty much everything that we do in terms of like how do we get things converting really high in like a short amount of time has to do with how do we take the data from what's happening and structure that and use that to actually improve the results. And then what data do we start out with, right? And so we work really well with people who are data minded, and there's a lot of like agencies that works well with because they're data minded as well. And so the data and the way that we do it helps them, you know? So almost makes like a mini mastermind of my own just because the clients surrounding me are all data focused. And so then we get to see more patterns, have better conversations. And there's a lot more leverage when we're helping them. But I mean, we do great with like financial advisors, coaches, consultants.
Infinite mindset versus finite mindset. For anybody who just heard that for the first time, I would Google it on YouTube. You'll hear Simon Sinek talk about it, the Tim Bilyeu, all these guys, right? And it really refers to this mindset of playing the game to win forever, not just temporarily, right? Not short-minded. Oh, I have a job and I can be fired in 6 months. I need to just spend this budget and get some results, or I'm gone to the next job. So, and that's why I asked it, right? When Nate, when you went that path, it makes sense because you're a good fit for an agency that understands that they're winning a long-term game, right? A company that measures its success typically on sales growth, gross profit metrics, and net profit, those are in that infinite mindset. Companies that try to measure per campaign ROI and don't do a horrible job at it are that finite mindset. And then you started talking, right? You started talking about how you guys do all these experiments, right? And how you guys do all this testing. And it's funny because it's not you, it's the whole industry. Sales and marketing is a big experiment and a big test.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think there are any great marketers. I think there's only great testers.
And there's great offers and great products behind those testers, right? If that makes sense. And I agree with you, right? You've got a product or service and offering, and then you're designed to test it. And if a buyer is looking for instant results, but doesn't value the no's and the rejections and the feedback, they're buying, they don't know the service they're buying, right? If that makes sense. They don't even know what it is, right? Because in order to understand business development and marketing, you have to understand awareness, consideration, decision. Like what percentage of your buyers even know basic stuff like that? Like, would you say that like 90% of people shopping around for services know what awareness, consideration, do they know these stages, or they just come in and say, we want revenue, help us?
Oh yeah. Most of them don't know really what they're looking for. They just know like what the greener grass looks like kind of. And so that's kind of an interesting point. Um, Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of what led us to it because we saw someone would work with an agency and then the client would come in and be like, "Hey, here's who we want to talk to and here's what we want to say to them." And then the agency is going to like turbocharge that message, right? But if it doesn't work, then whose fault is it?
I would say either the buyer or the seller, depending on who was responsible for writing the message and who's responsible for adjusting the message, right? I think it's that would be how to answer it. But ultimately, if the buyer is giving you the message and the buyer is not the one, the buyer tells you to continue with the bad message, is them, right? So it's kind of depends on the agreement you have. But that's an interesting question, because that also really kind of amplifies the part that any kind of work between a buyer and a sales agency is a team sport.
Yeah. Well, one thing that changed the game for us was doing market research in the beginning to actually find like where are the opportunities and how are they projected to go over time, so that we can align with what's existing in the market.
Okay. Maybe you could tell me about like a verbal case study without mentioning the company's name, right? Like maybe like envision like your number one case study, and let's talk through it, right? Was that company a product or a service? Is the question first. Where was the campaign based? What type of campaign was it? And what was your success metric they were measuring it on? So if you could think of that best case study, like were they measuring on like website visits, traffic, opportunities? Talk me through that.
So we had one client who I think this one's exciting for me just because of how big of a difference is to kind of validate that initial stage for someone who's like just starting out. So they were doing some prospecting on LinkedIn, and they're a financial advisor. And financial advisor, that industry is super fun for me because very few people are like gamifying it. A lot of them are like way reserved.
So this is a financial industry.
Yeah, financial industry.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they wanted to prove out what they were doing and kind of scale this program for financial advisors to be able to grow. So we helped them, and in their first 3 months validated it and got 30 clients and got 100K.
What was your success metric? Right. What did they?
So we go off of 3 things. So we go off, the first thing is the acceptance rate, the amount of people that accept the LinkedIn connection requests, and then the reply rate, how many people out of the people that accepted actually reply, right? So you have a conversation, and then out of those conversations, what's the interest rate where people are actually opting in, they're going to your page, or they're getting on a call with you. That is going to depend on the business and what their goals are. And so our goal is to get each one of those over 50% within a 3-month period, which, as you saw,
50% acceptance rate?
All of them, 50% acceptance rate, reply rate, and interest rate.
Okay. So we're talking about out loud a top case study. They were a financial service company, kind of like a Morgan Stanley, a Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch type of thing. And I hope it wasn't any of those, but something like that. And your offer, they came to you to drive conversations with potential investors through LinkedIn, and they were measuring you on the KPIs that you set up, right? Of acceptance rate, reply rate, and ultimately meeting rate after,
and then interest rate.
And then your promise was to get 50% of all those metrics, right? And that's crystal clear now, because like if I'm listening to this, like I kind of look at you and I'm like, all right, I got a guy to go to if I'm financial, because come on, financial services is huge. There's probably like 70,000 people you can help. You know that, right? Probably more. Yeah. And I get messages, by the way, from that community.
I was gonna mention that you made a post the other day, or a comment or something that I saw, where you're saying that you weren't reaching out to people or like replying to people on LinkedIn, because now there's so many people using it, right? So imagine, because the platform's becoming bigger, right? So that's one side where people go like, it's like this, but also that's a sign that like the platform's getting bigger, like people are using it more, right? And being on there more. But imagine like how good would it have to be that 50% of those at least are accepted and then replied to? Like, how good do you think your messaging would have to be if it's going to the right person? You get to choose who your clients are.
I would replace the word good as clear and valuable, right? And because it's like that's what good means in this context. And but ultimately that's what people are coming to you to do. They're not coming to you to just message people on LinkedIn. They're coming to you for your expertise on basically, it's essentially not doing what everyone else is doing, which is spraying and praying. I've got a message on LinkedIn that are like, I got X amount of software development companies. Here's a 30-minute calendar link. And I'm like, I don't even know you. Like, well, I want to give you 30-minute calendar.
I don't like when people like walk up to someone figuratively and the first thing they say is like, here's all the reasons that we should get married. Like, I just don't think that works that well.
No, it's common
Especially if
sense.
you're like we're talking about the offer, especially if their offer isn't like super fine tuned, right? Then they should be actually building a relationship and their offer is more like loose and it kind of gets to that point where it fits between both people. And a lot of people are just
I,
shooting it out there.
I agree with you, but I disrupted the case study. I want to go back to the case study. So 50, 50,
Yeah,
50.
yeah.
So this well, because we'll get there. Me and Nick can talk. We talked for like 40 minutes before this podcast. And then thought it was recorded, and then we realized that we both get canceled, so we didn't go with it. So we're going back to this. So talk to me about this client, right? Now, how long did it take them to get the results they were expecting? And was the expectation aligned? Like, were they expecting results in 90 days and got results in 90 days, or were they expecting it sooner and you had to coach them on why it would take longer, right? Like, how was the alignment for, how long it took them to get those results?
So they were doing it and having some success, but they were having issues with being able to grow the company because they were doing the work themselves and the way that they were doing it wasn't that efficient, right? They didn't really have it like super systemized. They were getting lower results than needed. So the volume for them to do it was taking up all their time, right? So we were able to come in and actually make it so it's a much, much faster process and they get much better results.
Interesting. And how long would it say, would a client, that if I came to you guys as a financial services, I was looking to generate conversations on LinkedIn, ultimately earn people's rights for their investment, how long would it take you to get someone's program that has, let's call it, no traction up to speed?
This makes me think of other case studies that I want to give.
Don't.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I wish I could
Next
give
time
multiple.
we
So
can. You can submit
yeah,
them
yeah,
to the
totally,
marketplace.
totally, totally. Yeah, so in terms of them getting traction, 2 weeks is all it should take them until they're launched and running. And then I say traction in terms of someone when they should expect to be able to get clients. And that point that we've seen historically is at that 3-month mark. But I really think that
Yeah.
that just has to do with the 90-day pipeline rule, to be honest.
Do you think it has something to do too with like the
Because they
condition of
can get
someone?
calls. They've gotten calls right at the beginning, like within the
Yeah.
first week, right? You have the right message going to the right person. Like a lot of people think that they need to set up all these additional railways, but like you need to get your message like working, converting, you know?
Yeah, I'm like, look, I think your natural tendency, what you said, is true, right? Like, you can get something fast, but like what we want to do is establish industry standards, right? So I think it's okay to say that it should take on average 90 days to see results, right? And then at the same time, we have to get some clarity on the results, right? Because I think results can be, if you're playing the infinite game.
I'm
'Cause right
so
outside,
frustrated with the market on this part. Like I think that yeah, just like there's this weird thing where people are coming into the entrepreneurship thing expecting that they're supposed to be able to like be able to have this super successful business within 90 days. And I'm like, dude, I've been trying this since I was like a kid, like a single digit year kid trying to
yeah.
figure it out piece by piece, right? And it's never been
Well,
like
that's why
that.
I want to talk about it, right? Because I think when I heard you, you hear some commonalities. You start right about infinite game, finite game, right? Infinite game is somebody who says, as long as my LinkedIn profile is growing, my followers, my likes, my conversations, my engagement rate goes from, my acceptance rate goes from 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 to get to 50,
Yeah.
right?
It's like a
That's
skill.
the
It's not
infinite
binary.
game,
Yeah.
right? The finite game is, you got 30 days to get me $100 million of investors for my financial services, right? That's the finite game, right? And the finite game doesn't really work. So, sometimes anybody listening, right? I think it's also probably fair to say that, like, you can't always measure success as profit, because that might not be really the stage that your business is in, right? And you should also come prepared to understand that your agency, if you're a financial service company and you have 30,000 connections, you got XYZ, the ability for you to generate investors' trust could and should be faster than maybe a financial advisor who's 25 who just started, right? But the agency that you hire, let's say it's Apex Conversion, like, if they execute the work the right way, they're building you towards that future regardless, right? And I think, do you think that people just ignore that because they don't know about it, or do you think they ignore it because it's not sexy? And by sexy, I don't mean Instagram sexy. I mean, like, they don't see the money flying. It's not like Wolf of Wall Street in an office. Is it impatience lack of understanding? Is it either of those two? I was going to throw a
Part of
C
it could be
choice, but I didn't.
entitlement. Part of it
I was,
could be entitlement. Like when
this
you
is back to that
yeah,
conversation. Is getting us canceled. Yes. So it is
yeah,
entitlement. Guys,
yeah.
entitlement.
Like, cause you'll want to help someone, and then they'll like not think that it works that way, and you're like, okay, you gotta learn something here, you know. And so
It's like
they
Elon
just think,
Musk being like, yeah, I'm going to fly to Mars on the Falcon 9 right away.
yeah,
I think he already realized that Falcon 9 was not going to take him there, and he had to cancel it and do Starship. So yeah, it's
yeah.
like it's
They should just be open minded. They'll learn. It's not binary. It's like a scale. Like you basically like you're just it's hard. You have to be like humble forever. It's just like a sport, you know. I think it should be treated like personal development wise, like just the same.
let's close up this case study. What was the end result? Is this an ongoing campaign now, or did this client of yours get like a 6x ROI, or was it not really opposed to revenue? Like, what was the end outcome that they got?
Well, so that they got 30 clients during their first 3 months, and so that got
And
them
how much
about
is the average client? It's probably a lot. It's an investment, right? So it's
yeah. So
30.
they were just starting out like validating that new product. So it was around 3K, around that like
Okay.
lower high ticket
So they got
area.
60K in 90 days.
Yeah. No, 100K in 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah, going from
So,
0
so,
like to like not
so if
having
you're
like an offer to
so if
having
you're a
the sales
finance leader
conversations to
listening
get
to
it.
this, you're listening to this, and you want to get 100K out of LinkedIn. You got Nate Morris to talk to now on Apex Conversions. That's why we do the case studies, man. There are so many people that literally fit that profile that would love to find you but can't cut through the noise, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big space. Talk to me a little bit about just like before we end this this show today. Tell me a little bit about mistakes that buyers make during a selection process, whether it's selection by pricing, choosing a shiny object. Like, what's that most common buying mistake that they make? And by buying mistake, I refer to mistakes that hurt their ability to get what they want, not mistakes that hurt your ability to convert them to a customer. So I don't want to confuse the two, but like, what mistakes do you see over and over again that you wish that you could just then they were gone?
For buyers,
Yes, from buyers of agency services.
I think that the agencies, if the way that strategy sessions are done nowadays, I think is like crap. I think that they basically just turned into these sales calls with no like real strategy. And I think that the buyer should be able to actually get strategy from there. So like one thing we did is I have a data analyst, and so we'll actually create a legit strategy based on the market so they know like what's actually going to go on and what's possible, right? And like how that's worked.
You're talking about your offer
Yeah.
before
I
they
know.
buy. So
Yeah.
guys,
But for them, they need,
I'm
yeah.
gonna pull it out of your head. No, Nate, I'm gonna pull it out of your head.
Go for it.
Mistakes that agencies make is that they fall for companies that don't provide value during the sales process. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
If you go for a company that is going to try to sell you versus provide value in the form of a report that you can take and you could say, I know what my problems are, I can fix it myself, or I can use this agency, then you're ultimately going to increase the likelihood of failing, because without that conduit, you're not really aligning it. And guess what, guys? Nate has that offer. So why don't you tell everybody about the offer? Because I don't meet that many sales agency owners that have offers. So people that meeting with you guys, they get a report. Well, tell me about this.
Yeah. So when people get on, we have like a strategy session, blueprint session, and we will find who do they currently want to go for, and then underneath that, we will find on LinkedIn for you what are the subgroups of people that are the best ones for you to target, and what are their current marketing, like what are their pains, and then we'll actually find like where are those people that are active. So like where's the watering holes, right? So now you know where the people are
And you
at.
do this whole report, and you do this report for free.
Uh, yeah, we do the
Sounds like
initial one of them
sounds like a
talking to us.
$5,000 value to me.
Yeah, we just gotta show them the potential. You know, it's a long game here.
No, it's deeper than that. You're being modest. You figured out the value of an offer, which many didn't do, which is cool, guys. Because this is the first time I've ever asked a question. This is the first time I've ever asked an agency owner the question of what mistakes buyers make, where I got an answer that aligned with they don't they don't look for an agency that has a valuable offer to them. And obviously it was easy for Nate to answer that because he figured it out himself by creating an offer for his company. So he figured out after years of getting clients that are buying, he's like, all right, he's like, if I give this offer, this report, A, I'll know if they're qualified, meaning that I can make them happy. B, I'll give them value. And it actually can tell who is in the infinite mindset. Basically, somebody who's got the infinite mindset finds value in the report. Somebody who has an infinite mindset is going to want to, I don't want to report. What are you charging? When can I start? When can I get results? Right. So it's like a disqualifier for you almost, huh?
Yeah, basically.
So if you're getting excited, I get excited by offers.
No, totally. Offers are super fun. And I think that, we could go on forever.
We're gonna cut the show, and you're gonna tell everybody where they can find you. But we're also gonna agree on one thing: we are gonna make a guide or report, a tool to help companies create their offer and do a co-marketing together and give value to the community more than this, because that's how we met. We met in a debate talking about offers. We're on the agency spotlight series now, and I found out who you help the best. Right?
It's almost like chicken versus the egg, like
too.
the offer or the sales conversation.
It is the chicken or the egg, and
that might be a good.
It lines up to all the things you're saying.
Something like that, yeah.
It lines up to all the things you're saying. You start out with the infinite finite mindset. You started like everything you answered. It comes back to like that offer, because that offer will tell you exactly who's in it for the long term. Not long term paying you without results. Long term, like, understands these metrics going up, understands they have an offer. So it's interesting pulling this out of you, because and now it makes sense why your best clients are the guys playing the long game, the ones that find value in the offer. And that's a standard for not only your
sales process. I think a lot of businesses right now are doing marketing and then getting the sales that come in, but the sales process is like not there. And I think that's another thing they need.
And anybody who's looking at Nate's like body language, he's just getting excitement about thinking about fixing the problems. You're not Superman. You can't fix everyone's problems. But you're like me. You want to get out there.
I would. If I could, I would, though, for sure.
I'm the same way. It's called being a winner, man. You have the disease. Yeah. Anybody who wants to catch the winner disease and find you and learn from you, where can they connect with you?
Yeah, go to natemorse.com. That's where I post like all my articles. You'll connect with me personally, and then you'll be able to see my services and whatnot from there. We also have apexconversionsystem.com for the agency, but in terms of like resources and content, I'd go to natemorse.com. I have a newsletter there, and that's the best place.
Nate, I'm going to continue to follow you on social, learn from you, jam with you. I want to do this co-branded content. And then I also want to pick your brain for CloudTask and the ways that you can help with content. Because like I said before, we live in a world, a network state where we're immediately friends because we have a common cause. We want to help buyers hit their sales and marketing goals without losing their money. And everybody who tuned in today for the Transform Sales podcast, Nate Morse, founder of Apex Conversions, thank you so much for your time, man.
Totally. It was a blast to do again.